South G20.
Let's go to Dhananjay. Are you there, Dhananjay?
Yes, I'm here.
You can speak also 5, 6, 7 minutes maximum, okay?
Thank you for this program and opportunity, Dr. Professor Davis. And I'll be speaking about the intra aspects of South, and that has to be highlighted in the contemporary development for a progressive future and better world in place. And I suggest that in place of sectarian identity-based nationalism, South needs to think about a common history or a history that brings people together. History of coalescence is the history of what people share. When current events are given more importance than history or used to judge history, time and space become fixed. The history of South is similar, though this history is not linear or is not at all same. But history shows that lives of people in this area have been linked in many ways. But in today's world, quirks and differences have become things that everyone has in common. Things that used to be true for everyone are no longer. We define, redefine, and partially accept omniscient values. One of the worst things about colonialism was that it caused the South to start forming a sectarian identity. By the time colonial masters left the idea of coalescence history or common history, which says that we all have huge effect on each other and that each history is useless without other, was starting to fade away and be left out. Now the leaders of sectarian groups have tried hard to clean up the history of commons, but they have not had much luck. It can be lessened though if you look back in time from the present. Here the immediate benefit is the impromptu creation of a point of view which is called history. From now on, people think that history is important for today only. And the modern era is better than the past when it comes to making a lot of information, which gives people perspective and is eventually treated as history. Common history is ignored, rewritten by people in charge or ruling classes, for whom history is just a way to pass the time. There are four very important meanings of the word South for global and imperialist forces. The people in charge of South don't agree on important issues. But when it comes to how imperialist masters see the importance of the area, the same leaders can easily agree on its fate. First, the word existence has become a given in global conversation about the South. South is seen as an existential realm in the capitalist discourse. And the leadership in South does not or do not challenge the concept of existentialism in South. Second, the strategic predominance is still a value that gets brought up when talking to countries in the South. Some words like terrorism, balance of power are used as an insult over and over again. Third, military industry complex shows how important relationships within the South are for the growth of our markets. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute has found that from 2017 to 2021, 60 countries were biggest exporters of arms. During that time, 77% of all arms export came from USA, Russia, France, China, and Germany, which were the 5 largest arms suppliers. China, South Korea, Israel were 3 of top 10 countries that exported arms from 2017 to 21 that were not in Europe or North America. CIPRI has found that 163 states will import major arms between 2017 and 2021. CIPRI has also found 163 states will import major arms in this period. India, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Australia, China brought 38% of all arms imported in the world in this period. The top 10 countries bought 55% of all arms imported. Fourth, imperialism makes it possible for capitalism to grow even more. The South cannot be left out of the global capital flows. Global capital tries to get help from pre-capitalist forces in South whenever it can. To start, the goals of ruling class have been boiled down to existent, strategic, military industry complex, and uncontested imperialism. Practice and theory have become very limited to these areas which were put on them by capitalism and imperialism. Second, history of commons is pushed to the side. The first thing that go wrong in the history of coalescence or common are dictating policy paper, manipulating white papers, and being violent towards each other. Marginalization or cohesion of or marginalization or death of common history make it possible to think of three zones. Autonomous zones, you'll find the concept of autonomous zone in the south, where you don't talk to each other. There is a refusal to work with each other. And there is a zone of conflict. And the zone of conflict would be divided into territorial zone. And in territorial zone, you have a conflict and the territory becomes very important over people. And you have a second zone, which is partisan psyche due to the colonialism. The colonial masters' partition of territory is seen as a partition of mind. In other words, there is a path between division of land and division of mind. The division of land was one of the most important events in history in imperialism. Mind partitioning is a practice that is both done every day and looked up to. Here, history of coalescence or common is badly hurt. The spread reminds us of division of formula for people. We lose sight of what we have in common and how we have shaped, changed, been changed by each other. Territorial division may be a temporary split. The psychological partition is an attempt at a permanent split. Institutions both celebrate and act on the fact that permanent ruptures happen. The third contested zone is a global capital. There is a race going on between institutions to get closer to the global capital in South. The South needs to reject its identity, which is based on strategic MIC and imperialistic formulas. The ruling class have kept this going by making zones that are independent, contested, and shared. It is important to reclaim the history of people coming together for a de-identitarian South. And de-identitarian South is very, very important for the global South. The progressive movement, global social movement, global civil society are the main group that are rejecting or have the potential to reject the strong identity that colonialism and native ruling classes imposed on the South. When it comes to rejecting essentialization and imperialism, the progressive movement play a big role. The link between global social movement is a chance to connect the South to the rest of the world and the rest of the world to the South. Through connection between people, the global civil society plays a big role in getting people involved on many different levels. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.